intelligence or technology, that it might be a good idea not to mention this fact to the public. It might be a very good idea to keep that fact secret.
When War of the Worlds and this panic came about, that was the only thing that the Brookings Report could reference, saying, look, NASA, you have to prepare for this. You have to have some kind of procedure or protocol for if the public does get into sheer panic. You have to be prepared.
But what is the current policy? Does the U.S. government have a plan?
In terms of preparedness, there are not many documents out there to prepare officials for the possibility of a UFO event taking place. But amazingly, there is one such document in the United States. It's called A Firefighter's Guide to Disaster Control, and this is a book that's used in the Federal Emergency Management Agency's National Academy to train firefighters.
The second edition of this book came out in 1993, and that book had a chapter on UFOs. Explicitly, what would an emergency specialist do in the event of a UFO-related crisis or disaster? It's really pretty amazing stuff to go into a book that was written under the FEMA umbrella.
It would not be remiss to give some thought to the part that fire departments might play in the event of the unexpected arrival of UFOs in their communities.
If there is an event like this, the firefighters and the police officers will be the first people on the scene. And they are instructed in this book to get in touch with the military. I don't think they'll be handling it by themselves for too long, but since they are the first ones on the scene, it gives some general guidelines.
Among the dangers they listed, I believe, were to aircraft. So the knocking out electrical or navigational equipment was one such danger they indicated. Knocking out communications equipment.
You may have engine trouble upon approaching the scene, and radio contact could be lost with your dispatcher.
Well, there is definitely a concern about a physical object crashing or somehow impacting populations. Giving specific instructions like do not get too close to the UFO, do not touch the UFO, be prepared for radiation, be prepared for possible psychic effects. You know, it might affect your mind in certain ways, you might feel sick.
Some combination of air and ground units should be available to treat potential victims of unexplained aerial phenomena.
And then it ends the chapter by outlining a scenario of a UFO crashing in a school. It actually says there are alien bodies there and you have to decide whether to rescue them or what to do with them. You know, what would you do as a firefighter in such a situation dealing with such an unknown phenomena?
With a good plan, good leadership, and adequate resources, you may save many lives in any disaster, including attack from possible enemies.
But many researchers doubt this document is the comprehensive plan that the government has for when UFOs land in our neighborhood.
There really aren't that many recommendations on what one would do. Well, the main thing that they say is if you have firearms, don't shoot at the vehicle. All right, well, I think that's probably very good advice. But beyond that, there's really not an awful lot that they recommend.
It is the one document, I think, in the United States that we know about that indicates a concern that our officials be prepared for such an event taking place. This manual is apparently found in most firehouses throughout the country. I have looked into whether the police department has a similar manual, and I have been told that they don't. The military has no manuals that we know of like this. I'm sure that they do, that are not made public.
Is there more than what is being made public? Surprisingly, other governments have contingency plans for ET's arrival.
You also need to know that some governments are getting impatient with this. A perfect example is France.
When we return, the French develop emergency procedures after strange lights descend on the neighboring country of Belgium. Belgium, November 29th, 1989. Policemen on patrol outside the city of Eupen see a mysterious triangular object with blinding lights hovering over a field. For the police officers, it is the beginning of a 3-hour journey tracking the UFO across the countryside. For Belgium, it is the beginning of a nearly 2-year-long wave of UFO sightings.
The significant wave of sightings over Belgium in particular in 1989 and 1990 of triangular aircraft have yet to be identified to this day.
On that first night, the police are swamped with telephone calls from 150 witnesses. Soon, sightings of the Yupan Triangle, as it comes to be called, are reported throughout the country. The UFO phenomena there results in an unprecedented level of cooperation between various government agencies and private UFO investigators. Some consider the actions taken in Belgium a model for developing a plan to deal with other UFO incidents. The Belgium Air Force quickly takes the lead in setting up a procedure for tracking this unidentified flying object. Colonel Wilfred de Browner, the Air Force's Chief of Operations, coordinates a special task force to work with local and national police agencies, as well as civilian UFO investigators. On the night of March 30th, 1990, the triangle is sighted again. 2 Belgian F-16 fighters are scrambled from Beauvechane Air Base. Despite flying for over an hour, the pilots are unable to make visual contact with the UFO, but do manage to record radar images of it. The encounter leads some to speculate that the Yupan Triangle is actually an American craft. If so, the most likely culprit would be the F-117A stealth fighter. This secret, triangular-shaped aircraft is designed to have a minimal radar signature, but sophisticated analysis conducted on both ground-based and on-board radar images of the Yupan Triangle calls this theory into doubt. According to the radar, the UFO could, within seconds, accelerate from 170 to 1,100 miles an hour and drop from 11,000 feet to near ground level. Maneuvers like those would generate an enormous G-force, far in excess of what military testing films show a human can endure, thereby dismissing the possibility of the UFO as man or American-made. The sightings in Belgium, whatever their source, eventually subside, but not before nearly 2,000 people report seeing that flying triangle.
After that wave had passed, some members of the European Parliament wanted to organize a UFO investigative body, or actually they wanted to contract a French UFO organization to work with them to check into UFO reports that were on a European-wide basis.
That organization is known as SEPRA, a French acronym for Service for Assessment of Atmospheric Re-Entry Phenomena. Housed in France's National Center for Space Research, it is a cooperative European effort for collecting and analyzing UFO information from around the world. In 1999, SEPRA's extensive data provides the basis for a report issued by a French group called COMETA, which translated is the Committee for In-Depth Studies.
There have been various studies over the years, but this is really an